Hey, this is Gabe. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be making a guitar themed wooden bent ring. We're going to be making some veneer, and we're going to be making our veneer from scratch. Where I live, this is just a piece of dyed maple. There was a garage sale going on, and as you can see, I paid 50 cents for this piece of wood. I actually bought about 10 pieces of maple. These were some old drawer fronts. It's like the guy had in his garage. He was downsizing. And anyway, this has been sitting out there for years, so I know it's nice and dry. And this came from a cabinet shop, I think, in somewhere in Canada. That's where, at least that's where the guy said that his relative was. So anyway, pretty neat to be able to score on a bunch of pieces of drawer fronts like this, and everything was 50 cents each. So if I make a mistake, it's not a big deal. And but it's really nice to have some straight grained hard maple. So anyway, that's what we're going to be using for the interior of this wood ring. So I have my blade set to about 1 millimeter thickness, and then I'm just going to rip out a few pieces. And we'll see what that looks like. Nice and thin. I might make that a little bit thicker for the next pass around, and then we'll smoothen it out on the sander. Alright, so I ripped off quite a few pieces of wood. I didn't even count them, but enough to work with for a while. And that was probably about 1.5 inches off of that board. So for 50 cents, I still got a lot of these left in it. Alright, so now I'm using my little drum sander in my lathe, and you have this little flat piece here that I modified. Goes in here like that. It's pretty simple, just some scrap plywood and a piece of coco bolo and the tool rest. Just clamp that down, and so I'm about 0.89 millimeters thick on this right here. So what I want to do is, and you can see it's kind of rough, got some little bit of tool marks because of this wood. Still really flexible, so I have to hang on to it nice and tight with my back fingers here, and I'm going in on an angle so it's going to go down the hole over here, but I'm going in a little bit more than halfway. Took off about 1/10 of a millimeter on that first pass. I'll adjust that again after I go through these for a second pass, and I want to get those down to about 1/2 millimeter thickness. Okay, I've got my calipers at 0, as you can see, and then these I went through the same process again, sanding them down, and you can see they vary from 1/2 millimeter to like 0.6. So as you can see, that's just around a 1/2 millimeter thickness, although, you know, varying thickness, but about 1/2 millimeter all the way through. And I marked that with a 1/2 inch line from here over. I'm going to cut this off right here. These are the pieces that I've already trimmed. I've got 10 here, and this will be 11 from that one piece of wood. So to trim it, I'm just taking my hardboard that I use for my segmenting videos, the textured side down. That grips the wood really good. And I'm just using a box cutter, nothing special, just a fresh blade. A little bit of pressure. And that's a real nice cut, and that's nice and flexible. This just gets discarded. Now I've got this piece of 3/4 inch pipe, glued a cap on the end, open on the other end, and I'm just going to take a piece of this 1/2 inch here, throw it in there, and just fill it with water and let it set for I let it set for about an hour. I've done it the other ways when I've made some different ones, and I've just I got the same results boiling them 20 minutes versus just soaking them in water for like an hour, and it's just as flexible. So without having to go and then grab a pot and then try and clean the pot afterwards, it makes a heck of a mess. This is easy, it's cheap, you know, you just put it in, dump out the water, and then you're good to go, and it's nice and flexible. So we'll soak this in water, and then we'll come back when we're ready to take this out. Okay, so this is soaked for quite a while, and let me see if I can pull this out. Okay, so I'm just going to grab one of these. And I've already tapered the edges. So I have this 3/4 inch or 22 millimeter dowel that I've been using. And I'm just going to wrap this around that. It bends pretty good. It's the same, bends the exact same way as if I was soaking it in hot water, believe it or not. And I've got some 1/2 inch blue tape. I'll wrap that with. Put another strand around it. And then I'll let this dry overnight, and we'll come back to it tomorrow. Okay, it's been a day. So now we'll just untape this. And you can see that's maintained its coil very nice. One thing I found out about this right here is that you need to wrap this on whatever size piece that you want this as. If you want this a much smaller size, then this needs to be a much smaller size. Otherwise, it's going to retain that memory when that's wrapped up like that. So, future reference. Okay, so I'm going to be using some of this Gorilla Super Glue. Of course, I have my gloves on, and I've uncoiled it from the middle. I'll put a little glue on the end here first. And I have my garage door cracked open, the main door and the side door for some cross ventilation. This stuff really irritates my eyes, so future reference there. I just want to put that on there and make that a little kind of tight. Put that tape back on there. All right, off camera, I dropped in a little bit of CA glue all around the edge, thin CA, then hit it with some accelerator, fill all those gaps. So now I'm just going to put it inside the 4-jaw chuck, round out the inside. As you can see, I've got that rounded on the outside, smoothed out on the inside. That's about 2 millimeters thick. And I did the exact same thing, ripping some koa. So that was what I'm going to put on the outside, like that. So it's going to be a double layer. And then I'm going to just glue the koa on. So I'm going to slinky it on a little bit like that, and then put a little glue on, and then work my way around. Okay, so I have this wound kind of tight, as tight as I can get it, just by working it around. This is the fold right here. So I just want to put a little bit of thin CA All right, I have a piece of graph paper. This is 1.5 inches or 6 squares divided up into 8 pieces. And then that will get me my lines. Okay, so that looks like it's centered correctly. I'm just going to mark this. And I think that's about right. Looks good. Okay, now that looks like it's spaced right. So we'll just take our saw and cut slits across here all the way around, and I'm going to go to the depth of the koa and stop when I get to the maple. Just taking my back saw, I'm only cutting down to the teeth, which is about the depth of veneer. Now I have these pieces of aluminum as the same stuff that I used when I made my guitar pens, segmented pens. These are what I use for the frets on the brass tubes. So it's just the same piece of aluminum cut crossways, about 1/8 of an inch. And that will just get glued in just like that, and then the ends trimmed off. Okay, I've got 2 of them in. I'm just putting a little drop thin CA. Then just tucking that in, repeating the process all the way around. Okay, now any of the excess, I'm just going to use some side cutters, kind of trim that off. Back at the lathe, we're just going to put this on the 4-jaw chuck again. I want to flatten one side, then flip it around, flatten the other side, and then I'll do the top. In the drill press, I'm using my same X and Y vise to drill out the holes that I need for the abalone frets. I'm going to be using some acrylic dowels. I have turned down to 5/32, and you can see I have a couple of those in there. I just have a little one like this. Just going to push in and then flood that with some thin CA, and then that'll be good to go. first one of these is on. This is a thicker one, so it's a little bit more of a problem. The second one is easier because it's not as thick. I didn't write down the number of the string, but anyway, I'm just going to find a spot right here next to where the other one is, and I'm just going to hold that like that. I'm going to put in a little CA glue. Using something metal. And then I'm just going to hold that there. Takes a couple of minutes for that to dry. This isn't as good a glue as some other CA glues, but it works without the activator nonetheless. Okay, that is almost set up. So just want to rotate that a little bit, line that up, and then cut that right there. And a little bit more. Let's see. That's about right. So I'm just going to give it a little bit more glue in there. Push that down, and then we'll hold that in place. That's going to take about 5 minutes to set. That took a little bit longer than expected for that glue to set up. I had the thicker spring here on the right pop off, so I had to reattach it. And anyway, all is well. So right now I'm just going to put a few layers of this Gorilla Glue over that and let it set overnight. I realized I forgot to start the video here. Started working away, and you can see what that looks like. I just rough turned it and then sanded it with 180, 220, 320, and then to 400, and then put a little hut wax on top of that. So nothing too crazy to get to this point. Just like turning down a pen, I just got the basic shape of what that looks like right there, and you can see what that looks like. And then the inside, I relieved the inside a little bit, so that will slide on. This is a little bit smaller. I had to remake the original one I was working on. It sort of blew apart on me, so anyway, this is a second one, and I forgot to stop and film where I left off. So, but anyway, you got the basic idea of how all that comes together. So I'm just going to do the inside next. I'm just going to put a little CA glue on the inside. And I'm not putting very much clamping pressure, so I'm not worried about marking or marring that surface. So I'm just using a little piece of paper towel, some thin CA, and some accelerator. All right, so check it out. That looks pretty good. And that is koa and maple. And you can see the acrylic dots that we put in there. And that looks really good. Hope you liked it. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. And we'll see you next week. Hey, this is Gabriel Castro. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel. You can click on the link right here and subscribe. You can watch a video series right here or the latest video right here.